Welcome back, boys and girls, and let me try to take you along my first journey to Elkhorn. A successful one, you could tell by me smiling. Now, I know I couldn't describe even 20% of what really happened, but I gotta tell you, it was a lot harder than I thought, and there are times that I thought I'm gonna go home empty-handed, and well, God blessed us with a great elk, and let me take you along. Here we go. First, our journey started with 3 days of driving, and I gotta really tell you, I really thank my wife volunteering to come with me so we could drive together, taking turns. So it was very pleasant, and I thought I couldn't love or appreciate my wife more than I already did. But after she coming along with me and making sure all of us had breakfast, lunch, and also having a hot meal waiting for us at a motel every night was great. Look at that. I always wanted to come here since I was in elementary. But I really had no reason to come to South Dakota. But now I do. On my way to Montana for elk hunt. Look at that, that's awesome. We got to Montana on Friday, actually Thursday night, and Friday Ron actually took a day off earlier so he could take me to his mother's ranch and do some target shooting, and we both made sure our rifles right on it, so that was a good thing because you never know what happens. But again, it didn't need an adjustment, but it was on it, and we confirmed it. And his farm was beautiful, and they have what they call a sand rock. Oh my God, they're beautiful. So me and my wife, we really enjoyed climbing it. And Ron told us the time when they were little kids climbing the sand rocks and and sliding it down, wearing off their brand new jeans, and then getting in trouble for that. But it was beautiful. Sorry, I don't have no food for you, buddy. I wish I had something. That way I won't be wasting your time. As you can see, I'm just kind of leaning back and having my beautiful wife driving now. It's her turn. And I am soaring everywhere, but I'm smiling. Anyway, the first day of the hunt, it was Saturday in the low teens, and we had a winds up to from 17 to 20 miles an hour. And my God, it feels a lot harder up in the mountains. It feels like 30 miles per hour. And right there and then, I kind of understood why Ron told me 6.5 Primo is not gonna cut it, because we're gonna need a heavier bullet. So anyway, first day we got in there, and it was supposed to be snowing, and it was snowing pretty hard. So I had my long boots, rubbery boots that I wore in Virginia for deer hunting. And at first I think it was great, but after walking all day long for about 15 miles or so, I started having pain on my big toe, and that's because my long boots didn't have that arch support that I needed. So I realized, yeah, it's not Virginia, that's for sure. But that first day we walked, and the terrain was really tough. He took me to so many different places, going into dark timber, climbing, walking on a platform, spotting. It was tough, and but I really enjoyed it. And I didn't tell Ron, but I really had a hard time keeping up with him. But I wasn't complaining, because if I was going to hunt with him, I wanted to make sure I wasn't the obstacle for him. I didn't want him to feel like he's dragging me. I wanted to make sure that I kept up with him, and I believe I did a pretty good job of it. But first day, nothing. There's a 6-point mule deer. I thought it was a elk. Well, pretty cool, man. There must be at least 20 25 turkeys out there.
The nice thing about it is you can tell the game was.
Second day, we woke up to a temperature of 1 degree. It was cold, cold, cold. So I bundled up. We went out there, and again, we did a lot of walking, a lot of spotting, and we saw a lot of tracks. And one could tell me, at first I didn't even know what kind of, what track I'm looking at. But Ron told me what the elk tracks looks like, and he would tell me like this is like 1 day old, this is last night, this is this morning. And I had my doubts of him, reading that well, even though he's Native American. But later on, he really proved me wrong. Everything he said was right on the dot. I mean, he was on it. So again, after walking another probably 10 to 15 miles that day, we saw some tracks, but not a real promising track. Probably a day or two old, but having the snow on the ground was really helpful. All right, second day out here in Montana. So far, we haven't seen the elk that we want, but we're still trying. But at least we got this view, right? So we can't complain. And check that out. I'll be watching this when I'm back home.
There you go.
It'll be nice to see a elk coming out of that opening, huh?
Yeah.
and then you wake up. Third day, fourth day, they were all same thing. A lot of workout, a lot of walking. By this time, some of the pains were getting worse, but then some of my muscle pains were actually getting better because I was getting used to that workout. And I really learned to appreciate Ron's knowledge on elk hunting. And knowing him in Virginia, I thought he was very mild-mannered, very educated, a person. But in Montana mountains, I realized he was very Native American. I mean, that guy could climb mountains like nothing else. I mean, he's like a wild horse, and he could read signs. He could tell me exactly what's going on, and I've learned a lot from him. I mean, I can't tell you everything, but now I learned to, how to spot elk. And I'm not just looking for elk, but he's actually looking, at the tracks and see. And he could have a pretty good idea how fresh that track is from a distance, and he could tell me whether we should go in or which way we should go. So I've really learned a lot. And on the fifth day, his hunting buddy Dave decided to join us. So on the day 5, it was all 3 of us. Nice bugs, huh? This is 4th day of the hunt, and Ronnie's out there acting as a bird dog for me. He's gonna go around that hill, and hopefully he'll run into an elk, shoot it, or push it toward this way. So I'm just sitting here, and hopefully I see something coming this way. But the furthest distance that I'm shooting is 500 yards, and I can see out to about 700-800 yards. So I just hope that thing will come into that 500-yard range for me. Every day we're hunting from dawn to dusk, and we're not seeing any elk, just the tracks. But we walked into a lot of muleys. Now, one thing that I realized is that as the first week of hunt was progressing, every day I'm seeing less muleys. Realizing that we got a lot of hunters coming in, and they're either going into higher ground or just they were just getting more harder to see. So I know for a fact, same thing in Virginia, the first week of the hunt is where you want to be. But again, around day 5, I was getting kind of discouraged about thinking, am I really gonna ever get to see an elk? But Ron was really good with encouraging me. He was saying like, David, don't worry about it. If he keep at it, it's gonna happen sooner or later. But he told me when it happens, you gotta make it count because you're not gonna get a second chance. These elks, they don't hang around like whitetails do. And on the day 6, when I thought, I was kind of getting really tired, kind of dragging myself, and I was kind of thinking, like, there is a very, very, very good possibility that I'm gonna go home empty-handed. And Dave told me, even the locals there, they might shoot an elk maybe every 2 or 3 years. It's not that common as you think, and the elks know where to be when the hunting season starts. So I was kind of dragging myself, honestly. And then Dave said like he has a muley doe tag, and if he sees a nice one, he wanted to take one out. So that day he shot a nice doe, muley doe, about a little bit over 200 yards. And when that deer dropped and we got to there, and I started to get excited again. My heart was pumping. I'm thinking like, yes, we are finally hunting. So on the day 6, it was really good for me, where it really kind of picked me up, and I started looking forward to what's gonna happen for next 2 days, because I only had a 2, maximum 3 days left to hunt. All right, this is our first hunt in Muley. Whew. Oh, that's a good sized buddy.
Oh, that's gonna run some meat.
Yeah,
I should just kick her down the hill first.
you did a spinal shot. That's what I kind of thought. But that thing was dragging its hind legs. This is beautiful. Yeah, somebody got lucky.
Then we were over on the state land farther over.
That's a nice elk, man.
Towards, well, from east of that, or west of that.
Ron did tell us, having 3 hunters, we should take turn where if we see an elk, or when we're all together, one should be the spotter and also measure the distance, and we should have a 2-shooter. So Ron was graceful enough to take the first, where he won't be the shooter. And Ron and Dave, said that when we see elk, when we're all together, they were going to give me the first shot, which I really appreciated. But at the same time, they put a little pressure on me, because if I miss the first shot, guess what? They're all gonna run. But they told me they're not gonna wait for me. They're gonna, if they see any sign that elk was going to take off, they're gonna take the shot. And I said, yes, by all means, do it. So anyway, on the day 7, we're driving in, and for some reason, Ron had this really funny feeling. He said he wanted to go back to the same spot we went in like 2 days ago, and he said, let's just go in and see what happens. So we're going in there, and I'm asking my guys every time, like, are we in public? Are we in private? So we go in there, and I pretty much knew it was public. They already told me when we passed that gate. But as soon as we probably went up maybe about 700-800 yards into the public, and all of a sudden Ron says there are some elks there, and they really got my heart jumping. So my first question was, is it in public? And he said yes. And so Ron stayed in the car, and he told us the range is about 380 yards. So Dave and I got out the car, and we ran about 20-30 yards into the woods, where they had some pine trees, and we could use that as a shooting rest. And Ron stayed in the car. So I'm looking through my scope, and first elk that I see was a bull, and the second elk that I see was a bigger bull, and the third elk I saw was a calf. And by this time, Ron was telling me like, hurry up, Dave. And Dave was just on the other cow. And the fourth cow that I saw on my scope was a big cow. And that's when Dave pulled the trigger and went boom, because he saw that elk turning his head, getting ready to run. And there was I saw about 16 elks. And when I first saw those elks on the mountain, oh my God, they're so big. It looked like a wall, like blocking the slope of the mountain. That's how big they look. And as soon as Dave shot it, and my cow still stood there, so I took the shot, but she just took the bullet like it was nothing. She just started walking away, and all the elks are running left and right. And Ron was saying like, one cow down. And the one that I shot, she was like, we knew she was hit because she wasn't running fast. She was just kind of like walking, but different direction. She wasn't able to climb up the big hill, walking away. And you know, I was looking at it, and Ron said like, that elk just hit. She's about 500 yards. So I'm thinking like, at 500 yards, my scope is at the second notch. And as she was walking away, I'm thinking, I'm gonna put it around 5 and a quarter, about 2 and a quarter on my scope. And she was headed right for the thicket. And right before her vitals went into the tree, I picked the spot, pulled the trigger, boom, and then you could see her taking back steps, about 4 or 5 steps backwards, and she flipped. And Ron screamed and said like, great shot, David. And I was so glad that I didn't disappoint them. So we got we got all the guns in safety, and Ron got off the car, and we all started chasing after it. So Ron told us where the first cow was laying. So when we walked up to it, at first we couldn't see it. I mean, that big cow in the sagebrush, it was almost invincible. But Ron knew exactly where it was. When we got up to it, Ron pointed at us, and I went over, and oh my God, it was not just a cow elk. It looked like, to me, it looked like a buffalo. It was humongous. If you think elks are like bigger sized deer, you really gotta think it again. But anyway, Ron decided to go after the other elk, trying to find her, because he saw her flip backwards too. And when he got up there, we noticed that he was acting funny, and then he started running up the hill. And so we knew something wasn't right. So Ron disappeared into the hills, and by this time we were so tired. I was so surprised when Ron saw that elk going over the hill. He ran up that mountain like it was nothing. He just like zoop, 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 and disappeared. So Dave and I, we started looking around, seeing if there's any other blood trail. Now, the part that was really confusing me was that Dave was shooting 300 short mag, and we could see the cow on the ground, but there was no blood trail whatsoever. She only had a blood coming out of her mouth, and it wasn't a complete, it didn't go through the whole elk, so there was no blood trail whatsoever. So they really confused me. So, and after a little while, Ron comes back out, and Ron was telling us that he saw the elk going over the big hill, and he was thinking like, so he came back and he was trying to talk to us about it. So I told him, in Virginia, when we see a whitetail that's hit and takes off like that, because he told us she ran like she wasn't hit, but where she was hit, you see a good amount of blood, so he knows it was a good shot. But this elk can take bullets like candy. So anyway, so he came back talking. So I told him, in Virginia, if we know that the whitetail is hit, we give him some time. And Ron said like, that's a great idea. So we decided to take this elk out, have a lunch, and then go back at tracking it. It finally happened on the 7th day today. Today's Friday. About 500 yards, 450. We know we got at least 2 cow down. Oh man, it was really, really exciting. And that rifle was right on it. Oh, we see our first elk right there.
There's a crossing. I mean, there's a wide spot right there.
Right there. She's a big old. Oh, she's a dandy. Woo! Oh my God, I didn't know how big they are until you get to see them. Oh my god, size of cow. Hey Dave, these are humongous.
They are.
Alright, just to give you the idea how big this cow is. Oh my god, look at that.
Is it going?
Huh?
Is it running?
Yeah. Oh my god, look at that. I can't even lift the head up. Whew. This is awesome. I'm bringing a lot of good meat. Too bad we can't eat the head, right?
That's right.
That's big. A humongous elk. Well, the biggest one I've seen. There you go. Yeah, that's like butchering a cow. As I told you, Rod is native here, so one for the spirit world. So, all right, good deal.
All right.
All right, guys, ready?
Cheers.
Cheers. Woo!
I don't like taking huge.
That sucker's cut in half, upper and lower limbs, and we packed it all in here. Very cool. All right, guys, I want to see you guys drag a little bit. Oh yeah, that thing's going real good. This makes the job look too easy for you guys. Not a fair deal. Field dressing the first elk, I realized why we needed something more than 6.5 framework for sure, because even a 300 short mag was not able to penetrate all the way. And the reason why they could run so far is that what I realized is that, you know, when you shoot a whitetail with a good bullet, about 2/3 of the lung is taken out. So they really don't have anything to run on. They might run maybe 50 yards, maybe maximum 100 yards and drop with a good shot. But this elk, it was liver and lung shot, but this elk only had like maybe about 10% of organ damage and had rest of the organ looking fine. So they could actually still run on the other untouched organs. So they could actually run for quite a while before they actually die of bleeding. And Ron told me when you hit an elk, they tend to, because they're so thick and they got a lot of fats, and because you're not getting a big old hole like on a deer, you won't see a lot of bleeding at all, because it's gonna start filling up the blood from inside, and then it might start bleeding outside later. So no blood trail whatsoever, except for the place where we shot her, or where I shot this my cow. But anyway, dragging it out was not easy, but the all-terrain cart that Ron told me I should buy was great. I mean, there are some places where it was like walk in the park, but still having so much sagebrush and hills and terrain. There, most of the time, all three of us were pulling and pushing at the same time. But being able to drag out a whole elk on a one trip, having everything on the cart was really great. Otherwise, we'd have really sweated it. Trust me.